Okay. All right. Just got it.
Yes.
Okay. Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to everyone. Welcome back to those of you who were with us last time, and welcome aboard for those of you who are new. We're happy to have you with us. The first session is already up on the We Move Forward Together website. So if you haven't viewed it, please know that you have that opportunity on the website. So we're lucky and blessed to have Kathy with us this evening. And I think for most of us, she needs no introduction. So Kathy, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Margaret. Let me share my screen so we can get moving together. Here, this looks like the right.
Kathy, you just have to unmute yourself.
See that. Thank you. Um, and I need to push this. Okay, here we are. Try to move that out of the way. So it's a pleasure to be back again with you. And for those who are new, I'm glad that you decided to come tonight. We're going to continue our conversation about incarnation and evolution, which noted last time that they're moving together. We need to think of these things as incarnation and evolution as simultaneously moving along in a process. And we want to plumb more deeply this central tenet of Teilhard's thought and synthesis. He was able to see these as two sides of a coin. Now, our process this evening will be the same as it was last week, last meeting. It was 2 weeks ago. I will first of all introduce a topic, and then we'll read a passage adapted from the work of Teilhard. It's not, they're not exactly straight from Teilhard, but they're based on his work. After the reading, I will give you time for reflection and then a chance to share in the chat a word or a phrase that has caught your eye. So be sure you know where the chat is. Also, be sure you know where the raise the hand function is, because after we finish with the chat, we'll start a discussion where you can share what you think, the readings meant, something that really touched you, something if you have a question or something like that. And so this evening we have two themes. The first is Jesus and the cosmic Christ. A tricky question for most people. I find most people say, well, what? How are these are connected? I mean, I always pray to Jesus. Now, who's the cosmic Christ? So we'll see if we can, plumb that a little bit. It's a deep mystery. And the second is the Cristic. Now, this was Teilhard's ultimate image of God. It's something that he wrote about right before he died because he really wanted people to see what he saw. And whether we'll be able to do that or not, I don't know, but at least we can, I can present an outline of what he was talking about. And then we can do the same thing with that topic that we do with Jesus and the cosmic Christ. So, as a reminder, at our last session, we considered the meaning of the Christian mystery of incarnation, and how for Teilhard, incarnation and evolution are intimately connected, and how Teilhard also connects incarnation with his celebration of the Eucharist. And I think we found that very rich. His description of both the consecration and the communion are very rich for spiritual life. Taking the Eucharist a step further than most of us are familiar with. Um, He tells us that from the beginning of time, incarnation and evolution have been participating together in a remarkably creative process. And we looked at that process, the universe story. We've seen that probably many times. But that is a process that continues to weave a universe that is growing in consciousness and diversity. Now, in his essay, The Mass on the World, Teilhard presents the Eucharist as a reenactment of the evolution incarnation process, a process that's occurring to this very day, and to share with one another. This gave us a chance to see that incarnation is not simply a one-time event, but rather that it's an ongoing process. However, it's interesting to note that even though incarnation, like evolution, is ongoing and not a simple event, many people still connect the incarnation with one of two events that did happen at a particular place and at a particular time, some 2,000 years ago. These are the feasts that commemorate the Annunciation, the conception of Jesus, and the feast of Christmas, the birth of Jesus. Many people fail to recognize incarnation as this ongoing process. However, the events of Jesus' life, including his conception, his birth in Bethlehem, his public life, his death on the cross, and his resurrection, are intimately connected to the incarnation. And knowing the connection between the life of Jesus and the cosmic Christ provides us with a much broader and deeper understanding of incarnation. Tonight, I would like us to consider this connection. So part 3, we had 2 parts last time, we're having 2 this time. And part 3 is Jesus and the cosmic Christ. Now, the term the cosmic Christ is not new with Teilhard. In his epistles, St. Paul speaks rather clearly about the cosmic Christ, although not with all the insight that we have today, given our knowledge of science and how the world came to be. And although Paul never met Jesus and at first persecuted Christians, he did meet the cosmic Christ. While he was on the way to Damascus, he was struck by a flash of light. He fell to the ground from his horse and soon became a Christian, and actually a very serious follower of the cosmic Christ, willing to give his life in the end. So for Teilhard, the cosmic Christ of St. Paul has neither meaning nor value, except as an expression of the Christ who was born of Mary and who died on the cross. After the resurrection, the apostles also had to struggle with how Jesus was still present to them, as they experienced him in so many ways during that period before Pentecost. So they were experiencing the cosmic Christ, but didn't have an idea of it yet. They needed to grow into that idea. In fact, when Mary Magdalene met Jesus in the garden after she had gone to the tomb and went to the garden and met the who she thought was the gardener, and it was the cosmic Christ actually whom she met, and he said, "Don't touch me because you don't know me yet. I'm returning to my Father. I'm going to be the cosmic Christ now." He didn't tell her that, but that's what he was implying by his actions there. The apostles and for us, the historical Jesus is the concrete expression that binds the incarnation and the universal Christ. The human life of Jesus makes tangible and shows us what we find hard to imagine about the living God. So without having Jesus on earth with us, have becoming flesh, then it's harder for us to understand God's goodness. But when we see the life of Jesus, it just makes it more concrete and more understandable. And so, viewing the incarnation through the double lenses of scripture and evolution, Teilhard came to realize the cosmic Christ as both immanent and transcendent. So, immanent means totally embedded within the cosmos, transcendent means beyond. So, immersed within the emerging universe, Christ guides the cosmos as it ascends from one critical point to the next. on its path toward integration. So this is Christ's task now. When Jesus was on earth, he was going about doing good, but now the cosmic Christ has a role too to draw us ahead in the evolutionary and the incarnational process into toward the Father and toward him and toward the making up of his body. So up ahead in the future, Christ encourages the cosmos to overcome its inherent resistance to unification. And we all experience that, right? We resist coming together sometimes. I mean, sometimes it's delightful, but there's often this repulsion, this like two protons coming together. But eventually we hope to overcome that. And that's what the role of the cosmic Christ is now, to help us to overcome that so that we can, love one another and become Christ's body. Many instances in the life of Jesus seem to model the incarnation, the process in which Christ immerses himself in matter and emerges to draw all things to the Father. So this immersion into creation and then bringing us out toward Christ. So consider these events as immersion and then emergence. They almost sounded like, I'm sorry, immersion and emergence. So consider Jesus' descent into Mary's womb, his descent into the Jordan River to be baptized, his descent into the tomb after the crucifixion, and he emerges from each immersion, each descent, to face the challenges ahead and to draw things to the Father. So seems like a reenactment every time he does that. And in death on the cross, Jesus emerges as the cosmic Christ, the universal Christ. This pattern of immersion and emergence, plunging down and rising again, is clearly articulated in the second chapter of Paul's letter to the Philippians. In that passage, Paul exhorts us to be like Christ Jesus, who, though divine, did not cling to his equality with God, but emptied himself to assume the condition of a slave, even to accepting death on a cross. And for this reason, all acclaim Jesus Christ as Lord. So immersion and emergence, two phases of a single divine action that empowers the world's becoming. As a consequence of Christ's immersion, the world is filled with divine energy and is thus a true sacrament of divine presence. And as a consequence of Christ's emergence, the world is continually being created, continually allured toward higher levels of convergence by the personalizing and unifying presence of the cosmic Christ. So let's take time now to listen to Teilhard's insights about this dramatic pattern of immersion and emergence that is ours to imitate. And again, after listening to the passage and after a short time of reflection, I will ask you to share in the chat a word or a phrase that touched your heart, amazed you, or confused you. And so now I would like to ask Barbara to read the passage in the chat. Thank you, Barbara.
In the fullness of time, when Christ appeared in human form, allowing himself to be seen and touched for a brief moment, he symbolically reenacted this sacred double gesture. As a prelude to his public ministry, Jesus, the incarnate presence of God, plunged into the waters of the Jordan River to be baptized into matter. By his action, he expressed his desire to become one with all of Earth, to bless Earth's creative forces, and to remain with us and suffer with us. After immersing himself in the baptismal waters, he rose from the bowels of earth, reached up to the heavens, and with the water still running off his body, he once again elevated, blessed, and energized the whole world. In a final dramatic reenactment, after a brutal death on Calvary, Jesus was buried in the bowels of earth, only to rise again on the third day and to ascend into the heavens. The cross of Calvary has become a sign of Christ's continual willingness to plunge into the fire, to engage in the purifying battle, not only to expiate sin, but still more, to surmount and conquer evil. Rising from the dead, the Christ of the Gospels became for us the cosmic Christ, the one who ascended into the future, the one who invites all creation into a unity of spirit.
Thank you so much, Barbara.
Welcome.
And so now take a few minutes to just to reflect on that. If you have the papers, that would be good. And when you write in the chat, please do that, when you get a chance, when I signal, take time to reflect first. But once once Angela begins to read the chat, it's good to sit back and listen carefully. I am always amazed at the beauty. The reading comes back at you in that way. And it's like a second reading, but a more profound reading because you've heard the words before. And suddenly you hear something that somebody said, that is not what you were thinking. And, it can be very powerful. So be sure you take advantage of that. But take a couple minutes now just to reflect on this reading. And so when you're ready, you can begin to write. Take a little more time if you need before you do that.
I like that one too.
Angela, perhaps you can begin to read.
Sure.
Thanks.
Baptized into matter, unity of spirit, one who invites all creation into unity of spirit. Baptized into matter. Rising from the dead, Christ became for us the cosmic Christ. Still more to surmount and conquer evil. The incarnate presence of God was baptized into matter. All creation is invited into unity of the Spirit. Ascended into the future, energized the whole world. Not only to expiate sin, but still more to surmount and conquer evil. After a brutal death on Calvary, only to rise again. All creation into unity of spirit. Elevated, blessed, and energized the whole world. His desire to become one with all the earth. His desire to be one with all the earth. He expressed his desire to become one with all. He once again elevated, blessed, and energized the whole world. Remains with us and suffers with us. Baptized into matter. He expressed his desire to become one with earth, to bless earth's creative forces. Bless earth's creative forces. Immersion and emergence. The time and place Christ lived. Why? We each had no choice of when and where we were born. How does this matter? Where are we and what it means to be Christian? Jesus plunged into the waters, ascended into the future, baptized into matter, invites all creation into unity of Christ. With the water still running off his body, he energized the whole world, continually being created, one with all the earth, continual willingness to plunge into the fire. He elevated, blessed, and energized the world. Are we mostly misusing this energy? At the center of a Christosphere Christ, the psychic center of universal concentration and prime mover of evolution. One with all, invites all creation into unity of spirit.
Thank you, Angela.
You're welcome.
Let me see if I can stop sharing. And we can take a little time for questions, remarks, suggestions, something that struck you particularly. And it's best if you use the raise the hand function because then we see you up the top and it's easy to call on you. If you just raise your hand this way, we'll try our best, okay? So please, whoever would like to begin. Margaret, I'm sorry. I didn't see your hands up. You're muted, Margaret.
I was
Good.
struck by the number of times I heard the word invites.
Mm. Interesting. Yeah, so we're not forced, we're compelled. I mean, well, maybe compelled, that's different, that's internal, but not forced, but invited. And that's always harder, right, to get something done that way. Much easier to be a dictator. Thanks, Judy. Susan. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, this is a question in the 1, 2, 3, the third paragraph, that Calvary is a sign of Christ's continual willingness to plunge into the fire. And I was just struck by it with the present, plunging into the fire willingness. And in the future, this is going to continue to be part of who the cosmic Christ is. And I just think that's sort of mind expanding. I don't know what it means, but plunging into fire, not just plunging into matter or baptized in the water, but plunging into fire.
Into the struggle, that's what I would think it means, really, Yeah, which is, it's the call ahead of for us, I think. Yeah, so you make a good point. And so it's good to have this, to understand that, and Jesus taught us that, I don't know if he never became flesh, we would ever, have seen it as clearly, but maybe we would. Thanks, Susan.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Gail?
Well, I think my thinking is too linear, and I'm finding that a bit difficult as we got into the cosmic Christ tonight, because I think about God as creator, but God is all present in all matter. And God created a human Jesus who died and rose. And so I'm thinking to myself, okay, at the resurrection, is that when the cosmic Christ occurred? But I mean, it seems very linear to me to think in that way, and I'm trying to figure it out differently. When did this cosmic Christ occur is a linear thought, I guess. So I just submit that as part of the way I'm trying to think of this differently.
Good. And I think that's a typical confusion for, for people, how to really fit it all together. And that's what Teilhard was trying to do, really. But I think for me, it would be that the cosmic Christ existed all forever, I mean, that's who was embedded in the cosmos in the beginning. But it's just that Jesus sort of emerges, right, from that, from the cosmos as both, God and is another spirit and matter. And then at the resurrection, because we don't see Jesus anymore, it's the cosmic Christ who, I think we should be praying to more than Jesus, but whatever you want to do. But in other words, Jesus is not with us anymore. It's the cosmic Christ. And we're, as we become more conscious, we can understand, who that is really in our lives. But thanks for bringing that up, because I do think that's where the confusion is for so many people who have grown up particularly praying to Jesus, and then suddenly, what? What is this? Martha?
Yes, a couple of things. It's interesting how we have the tendency to believe that Jesus started to live at Incarnation, and we fail to think that he was also part of creation. He was involved in the Trinitarian way. And I love the second paragraph. It says, he expressed his desire to become one with all of earth, to bless its creative forces, and to remain with us and suffer with us. In our creed, we says he became man. And I like to say it all the time when we pray the creed. I said, and he became one of us with the universe. Because that is the cosmic element of Christ, because he became one of us, not only a man, but or
That's right.
human, you know. And the beauty of it is that by becoming one of us, he lives within us and gives us that ability to connect with the greater cosmic areas beyond the world that we see visibly with our eyes. It transcends all of humanity, it transcends all of creation, and it is bigger than we would ever imagine.
That's right. That's good. And yeah, wouldn't you love to, sit down and try to rewrite some of those prayers we say?
Yes.
It would really be helpful. Sometimes I rewrite them myself, but
I do
I know
the
what you mean.
mass
Yeah,
symphony.
it's so much bigger than what, are in a lot
mhm.
than what is in a lot of our prayers. So Jean, good to see you again.
Oh, yes. Hi. Yeah, I have difficulty understanding God outside of the universe. It seems that God is within the universe. And Teilhard, when he says, the God who was and is becoming. So God is changing and God is becoming. But when you talk about the future, I'm not sure. I have difficulty thinking of a future outside the universe, but I'm not sure. It's just a question I have.
The way I understand it, there's a difference between pantheism and panentheism. And pantheism says what you said first, that's all there is, just the universe, and God's within that, and God is not outside. But panentheism claims, and it seems to be the accepted view of it now I guess by the church, the Catholic Church. I don't know about the rest of the world, but that God is beyond, and certainly Teilhard was saying that too, that God is beyond the universe, but embedded in it. So it had the two functions, the immanence and then the transcendence. So Christ, in some ways, I think of Christ Omega, the Christ who went to the future and is drawing us as being transcendent, beyond, and we're here, and but being, but Christ is still within the universe,
Yeah.
yeah.
But also, I think transcendence is also within, not just above or outside of.
Okay.
It seems that transcendence is also the withinness of everything, and finding God within.
And that could be true, but transcend means to be without, to go beyond. The word itself means, something beyond. Like if I transcend myself, I get beyond who I am right now. So it's not disconnected in a sense, but it's for me. But it's more than, just the world, just the cosmos. I don't know. I'm not a theologian. I have to profess to, and maybe that's the problem, but that's the theology I understand. Okay. All right, thank you. So Joanne?
So I'm no expert on religions by any means, but like when I listen to Teilhard and I hear these thoughts, I just keep thinking about like the Hindu religion and energy and then I just kind of Googled it real quick, and then I came up with maybe you could say something about this. I don't know, but it says Beatrice Brutto, Evolution Toward Divinity, Teilhard de Chardin, and the Hindu Traditions. It just reminds me, it's a whole other level. And for me, like the Hindu background kind of describes this very well. I can't even repeat it but I just know when I hear it, it sounds like this and this sounds like that.
Right.
So that's all I could say, but I just find it really inviting, and it does make the Christian story very real and tangible, yet intangible, but much more embodied, inviting to be embodied to me.
Mhm. Good. Yeah, I think we have been learning a lot from the East over the last, what would I say, 50 years. I mean, it seems as if we really are learning more. And I know I appreciate it myself. I think, but Teilhard does talk about the Eastern religions. And well, and in one of his essays, he talks about all, kind of three different strands of religion. And he talks about their problems and also their assets. And I think for the Christian religion, he said it's a personal God, which isn't true for the Hindus. But and yet the Hindus are, or the Buddhists, are very much centered in earth and that kind of thing. So there's the plus and minus for each one, and so we need to learn from each other so that we can all get the positive responses.
It's like they complement each other, though. They
I
only
think
help,
so.
they only help each other, if we could get that
Mhm.
message, but yeah.
That's a good way of putting it. Yeah, compliment. Yeah. Okay, thank you. And Sherry, you're next, I think.
Well, I was just thinking one of the earlier people was talking about where do you put the cosmic Christ in some sort of maybe a timeline. And what helped me with that was in I can't remember the name. Oh, the Universal Christ. Richard Rohr talks about Jesus. Christ is not Jesus' last
Yes,
name.
that's
And
right. Is
so
that
I
is
think,
that-
and you mentioned just after that about the way we pray, and maybe we should pray to Christ. And I was thinking, well, we're really sloppy in the church in the way we just marry those. We're not clear
Uh-huh,
with the words, so
uh-huh.
we've created confusion
Mm-hmm.
about the roles of Jesus, the man, and the Christ, the cosmic Christ. And if we were a little bit more clear and differentiated a bit, then we can easily see, well, the cosmic Christ is the Christ of the Trinity that was there from the beginning, that's alluded to in the prologue to John. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, right? So
Mhm,
it's really been grinding on my ears in worship lately that the
mhm,
words are so muddled that
mhm,
it seems like some clarity in how we frame our prayers and things like that would be really helpful. Uh,
mhm,
you know, I don't know if
mhm.
that really helps, but it's just, and I don't know how to make that happen. So
Right. Right. And in a whole lot of ways. I mean, we could take a lot of other topics and talk about that too,
Mm-hmm.
about how the prayers teach us actually. And so it's dangerous, I mean, really to have wrong stuff in the prayer
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
is
well, I
teaching
mean,
the wrong thing. Yeah, yeah.
I come out of I've played across the lot of the religions, and my training was through the Episcopal Seminary, and they say lex orende, lex credende, which means what we pray is what we believe.
That's right. Yeah.
And I
And it
think
helps us. It's how we live too. It's,
yeah,
what I mean?
exactly.
If
Right,
we really pray
exactly.
it, then that's the way we live. Yeah. Yes.
Exactly.
So
Yes.
we'll have to figure out how to make the changes.
Not
We have a
tonight.
project. Okay, we better move on though, too, because we have to go to the next one. So we have a couple more responders. So Peggy Warren first. We can't see you, Peggy, but can you? Okay. Okay. She disappeared. Oh no, there you are. Okay. Peggy, are you still with us?
I'm trying to get so I can talk. I was
Okay.
very struck by the end. Rising from the dead, the Christ of the Gospels became, and I want to put in here, once again, the cosmic Christ.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. For
It
us.
was that moment, those 33 earthly years where we had the man Jesus, but he was always the cosmic Christ. And he
Right.
once more became the cosmic Christ.
But notice what it says. It says became for us the
Right?
cosmic Christ. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I take your point. Yeah, I understand.
So
Yeah.
for me, that helps the transition from my saying, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was
Uh-huh.
made flesh. But it helps me to transition from the beginning to say,
Uh-huh.
when we knew this man Jesus, once more, we were able to enlarge our vision into the cosmic Christ. He
Good.
was he was always there for us.
That's right.
Yeah.
Thank you. And so Olga?
My question is about accessing some of these articles that were referred to. For example, Science and Christ by Teilhard. When I tried looking that up, it's like I think it's from Cambridge University and it doesn't allow public to view it. So I'm interested in some of these articles that are not in books.
Uh-huh. But the Science in Christ is a book.
Well, it says it's an article, so I don't know where to find it.
Where did it say that?
Um, okay, I don't have it in front of me right now, but it was the section, the third section.
Uh-huh.
And if you go down below, it's either number 1 or number 2, that it comes from Science and Christ by Teilhard.
Yeah, yeah. Anyway, that's what it is, though. It's a book. It's Teilhard de Chardin. It's one of the volumes of his essays. Yeah, I can't help you any more than that. And no, you can't always download. There's something if you go to archive.org, you could find it maybe. I
Yeah,
don't
that
know.
will it wasn't available, that's what it said,
Yeah.
but okay,
Mhm.
thank you.
Okay. Yeah. And it is hard to get his books now, some because it's a long time ago. Okay, Michelle, and you're muted.
Well, first, thank you
Better.
so much for having this lovely discussion. And I don't think I've been in any groups with any of you, but it's important for me to just acknowledge you and say hello, at least in my culture. So I just wanted to comment on something because someone brought up Richard Rohr and also some of the felt, I guess, shortcomings, if I may say that, no disrespect, to some of the prayers that we say. And my big thing is with the Nicene Creed. It's lacking, I pointed out to a priest that it's lacking the most important word in the religion, and that's it doesn't have the word love in it. And I think if there were women present at that council, it certainly would be in there. I mean, that's just my wondering about that. And a
Yeah.
lot of us are stuck. I mean, the whole world gets stuck, especially young people, with fourth century theology, which just doesn't make any sense with them, and they don't know about Teilhard or how to have this bridge. I do love what Richard Rohr does. I've been in many of his different sessions by different faculty, different classes, and I instead at church I say his prayer for the world or prayer for the community. Nothing stands alone. That prayer, he has a book on that theme as well, and I believe that he's heavily influenced by Teilhard. So that kind of helps me, bridge some of these ideas. And this whole idea of time, time doesn't exist maybe time doesn't exist in all of creation. And it's actually, I don't think time is linear either. I think that's how we experience it. But
Yeah, there are
in
definitely two
physics,
ways of experiencing time. One is, the way we usually talk about it, and the other is more, what is it, Chronos and Kairos? Yeah, like the time of the clock and the time of, another sort of time.
well,
But
and
anyway, that's a lot to, cover. But
sorry, yeah,
that's okay. Yeah, no, I'm
it's
glad to hear. Yeah, and again, agreement with, we should be doing with something with the prayers. In fact, I heard that we shouldn't be saying, the creed at Mass. It's very heady. It's like it's it's a description of the theological understanding of God in the fourth century, I would say. And and it was written to oppose things that were thought to be heresy. So it's not really something that it's not a prayer in a sense, you know what I mean? It's a statement of our beliefs. And it's hard, it's hard. I think it is hard and probably not the best place to have it. But anyway, it's not nothing I can do or you probably. But as long as we're understanding that and help people through it, because it does turn people on. Okay, well, I think we better get back to work. We have one more topic here, so let me try to share my screen again. I hope I'm not going to be in trouble. There we go. Okay, that wasn't hard. Okay. I'm hearing some noises.
What is it?
But everybody should mute, I think. That would be the best thing. And then it's hard to figure out who's causing it. If I'm causing it, let me know. But anyway, so part 4, the last part, is the Cristic, which is Teilhard's ultimate image of the cosmic Christ. And as I said earlier, he was really anxious to get this essay written. The essay is called the Cristic, and it's in the Heart of Matter. You can find it in Teilhard, the book by Teilhard, or the collection of essays by Teilhard called The Heart of Matter. It's his last essay, and he said the only thing he wants to do, by the end of his life, is to end well. And this was one of the things that he, felt he needed to do to end well. And so we're lucky to have this description. So after his brief life on earth, Jesus ascended into the future to be present to the entire cosmos throughout all space and time. Now, maybe to become, I mean, we know that, and, we were just talking about, he has been present, throughout all space and time. But anyway, to be aware for us in our understanding, because we experienced Christ one way, and now this is a new understanding. So from the future, the cosmic Christ continues to relate to the world, yearning to draw all things into one and into his body. We are Christ's body, but we are still on the way. Therefore, the cosmic Christ has not yet attained full growth, or as Teilhard says, Christ has not yet gathered about himself the last folds of his robe of flesh and blood, his robe of flesh and of love that is made up of his faithful followers. So he hasn't attracted us all yet to himself, and so the Christ is not finished. And as Christ continues to relate to all the creatures of the cosmos, not just humans, Christ evolves just as we do when we relate to other people and other things and other creatures. Once Teilhard was able to superimpose Jesus, his God of revelation, onto the God of his God of evolution, the cosmic Christ, who had been embedded in matter since the beginning, became for him an ever greater God, more vast and more beautiful than he could ever imagine. This ever greater God is the God of Christogenesis. So Christ is being formed. That's what the Genesis means, being formed. So Christ is being formed as we evolve and as we experience the incarnation. The God of Christogenesis is the prime mover of complexity consciousness that we talked about last last meeting, where we said that the movement and the evolution is toward greater complexity and greater consciousness. So Christ is the prime mover of that development, and also the force who is alluring the cosmos toward ultimate union. All were invited into a personal relationship with the ever greater Christ. So no longer simply human and divine, Christ acquires a cosmic nature. So in this sense, we're looking at three qualities of God. We used to say Christ was human and divine. Jesus was, both human and divine, but now we know Christ is cosmic. So that's the insight that we receive at the resurrection, in which the human, the divine, and the cosmic are one and cooperate to do the task at hand. And that task, St. Paul told us, is to hold all things together, to bring things together and hold them together. Therefore, if we want to acquire a true idea of where the process of incarnation evolution is moving, we don't want to go looking back at the past, but instead we want to look toward the future where Christ is moving us. We're on the forefront of the evolutionary process. So we want to be looking ahead to see where we're being drawn so we can cooperate with that drawing. We want to move toward toward Christ Omega, the active sign. I'm sorry, I don't have that slide. The active center of the cosmos, toward the one who is reuniting all things and in whom everything is being reunited. Now, near the end of his life, Teilhard was anxious to share this ultimate image of the cosmic Christ. At this time, the luminosity, and at this time in his life, the luminosity and fragrance that suffused the universe had taken on for Teilhard the semblance of a body and a face. The universe became personal, not just the God he loved, not just Christ, but also the cosmos that's where Christ is embedded, also became personal. So for Teilhard, the semblance of the body and the face, the figure and the face of Jesus Christ, the soul of the world. He calls this ultimate image the Cristic. So the Cristic is the integration of Christ and the world. And he always wanted to love the world and love God, and he had found finally a way to love God and the world in one act of adoration. The Christic is the synthesis of the Word and the universe, a divine person with a cosmic body that extends throughout the universe, a person whose presence impregnates and sustains all things and whose power animates all energy. Now, to try to describe this to us, Teilhard, who loved geometry, uses a geometrical image to help him share his understanding of the Cristic. And so I want to show you an image that I think this is what he was thinking when he was trying to explain this to us. So he talks about Christ being at the center of a Christosphere. So imagine this as a Christosphere, with Christ the psychic center of the universal concentration and prime mover of evolution. So Christ is totally present to the terrifying totality of things and reveals an ever more loving countenance. So we place Christ Omega at the center. Christ Omega personalizes the universe. So the universe can be related to. A person is something that you can relate to. So your friend is a person. with whom you can relate. Your cat is a person whom you can relate with. So that this is the idea of the person. So so from the center, Christ Omega personalizes the universe. And the universe he represents as a cone, a converging cone. And this cone started out with matter that was very dispersed, and it becomes more and more concentrated and more united. As it's being unified in a process that's both evolutionary and incarnational. So the cone is, we're showing the future of the cone moving toward Christ Omega. Now, from this singular point at the center, where Christ is, Christ, who is in touch with the whole universe, radiates the energy of love throughout the entire Christosphere to each and every creature. Everything is given new life by Christ's magnetic power. Now, as radiation from Christ reflects from matter that is becoming ever more loving in its contact with Christ, the intensity of that love builds up throughout the whole sphere, so much so that it would seem that a single ray of light falling like a spark, no matter where, would produce an explosion of such violence that it would almost instantaneously produce an explosion of such violence that it would, pardon me, and that it would set the face of the world, of the earth, ablaze and make it completely new. So what I want to do now is to listen to that. The page that you have now is kind of a recap of that. And so when Barbara reads it, listen attentively and see if you can get the idea. And then we'll put words and phrases in the chat when we're finished, all right? So, so Barbara, I think we're ready for your reading. Here's the universal blaze. I'm sorry. And here's the image of the Cristic also. So if you can see the heart, this is a little allusion to the Sacred Heart that when Teilhard was young, his family used to have devotion every night after supper. They would gather for devotion to the Sacred Heart, and because he didn't, he was not, he didn't like, he was so concerned about things that would die, living things that would die, and he didn't like this idea of a heart, and so he would kind of escape into the heart, into the metal around the heart, and it was a place of safety for him. And so now, in contrast to that, he sees the heart aflame, burning, and it's a place not of safety, but a place of growing and loving and being, the most. And so we put that heart there at the center to radiate love throughout the Christosphere. So, Barbara, you can begin reading now. Okay, is Barbara there?
Barbara, you're muted.
Yeah.
Okay.
Unmute. Okay.
There you go.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
At the center of the Christosphere, Christ, the psychic center of universal concentration and the prime mover of evolution, is totally present to the terrifying totality of things and reveals an ever more loving countenance, Christ personalizing the universe as it is being unified in a process that is both evolutionary and incarnational. From that singular point, everything is given new life by Christ's influence, by Christ's magnetic power. Christ, who is in touch with the whole universe, radiates the energy of love throughout the entire Christosphere to each and every creature. As radiation from Christ reflects from matter, which is becoming ever more loving in its contact with the center, the intensity of love energy builds up throughout. It would seem that a single ray of light falling like a spark, no matter where, would produce an explosion of such violence that it would almost instantaneously set the face of the earth ablaze and make it completely new. The process culminates in the formation of the total Christ, in a Christogenesis, the mystical phase of cosmogenesis, and the cosmos moves into the ultimate phase of evolution, cosmogenesis, into which all preliminary phases converge. Then the whole mass of joys and sufferings produced by the convergence of the world will become the subject of a universal transubstantiation.
Thank you, Barbara. That was wonderful. So I'm going to jump back to this image. As you begin to reflect a bit, and in a couple minutes, you can begin adding to the chat a word or phrase that struck you in that passage. So feel free to add to the chat when you're ready. Angela, you could begin a reading.
Okay. The cosmic Christ invites all creation into unity of spirit. Radiation from Christ reflects from matter that is becoming ever more loving. The intensity of love energy. The whole mass of joys and sufferings become the subject of a universal transubstantiation. Matter that is becoming ever more loving radiates the energy of love throughout the entire Christosphere. Christ personalizes the universe, prime mover of evolution. The intensity of love energy. The intensity of love energy builds up, radiates the energy of love throughout the entire Christosphere. Christ, in touch with the whole universe, radiates the energy of love throughout the entire Christosphere. The intensity of love builds up throughout, radiates the energy of love throughout the entire Christosphere. Universal transubstantiation. Christ's magnetic power. The intensity of love energy. Everything is given new life by Christ's magnetic power. Ever more loving countenance. Matter coming ever more loving in its contact with the center. A universal transubstantiation. Matter that is becoming ever more loving in its contact with the center. The image of the Cristic as on slide by Kathy. Christ who is in touch with the whole universe. Radiates the energy of love throughout the entire Christosphere to each and every creature. Christ radiates the energy of love throughout the entire Christosphere to each and every creature. The intensity of love energy builds up throughout. Radiates the energy of love throughout the entire Christosphere. Intensity of love energy. Whole mass of joys and suffering will become the subject of a universal transubstantiation. The whole mass of joys and sufferings produced by the convergence of the world. Christ radiating the energy of love. The intensity of love builds up throughout. Radiates the energy of love throughout the entire Christosphere to each and every creature. Christ is being formed as we evolve. A single ray falling like a spark would set the face of the earth ablaze and making it completely new.
I like that too.
Yeah, thank you, Angela. My
You're
goodness.
welcome.
There's a lot of radiation here. I
Yes.
find that to be an amazing image of God. I mean, that's really been my image in one way or another of God for many years. But knowing the Christic, which I've just recently have, come to know, I like to think about, when I'm in a group of people and we're, together to have a meeting that might be, not so easy or whatever, but to imagine Christ at the center radiating to us and imagining myself being, to feeling that radiation and then putting it out again to the center so that that we can be loving. I find it helpful, and I don't know whether you do, but just to use something like this idea of radiation, because like the sun, we don't have to be on the sun to be connected to the sun, where the rays just heat us up. So I would be interested in some of your responses to this. I hope it was not too abstract. Okay, just a minute. Let me stop my sharing so I can see you. All right, so Bob and Marion.
Thank you so much. This has been wonderful. Really appreciate it.
Okay.
I guess I'm struggling a little bit with this part, and maybe I'm just being too literal or what, but the universe story, and that makes a lot of sense in what you were saying before, but what I remember is that the universe is spreading out. That's part of what's going on. And so I'm having a little bit of trouble uh, making that work with this notion of this convergence. Um, and maybe it's happening at different planes or something. But since Taylor was so grounded in science, I'm just wondering maybe if you could expand on that a little.
Sure, I'd be glad to. Yes, because that's the truth about the universe is expanding. It might eventually convert, we don't know what's going to happen next, but whatever. And the other thing about that spreading out is the diversity. Things are becoming more and more diverse. So, so we start, at the bottom of that cone and but the matter there is what? It's just protons or, in the beginning, it's just elementary particles. And then it becomes more complex. So it joins together. And as it joins together, the matter becomes more complex and more as we go further along, more conscious also. The idea of convergence for Teilhard and what we're talking about here is more at the heart level. Our hearts will be one. It's more at that level, not, the matter piece, the little matter piece of it, but more the spiritual piece of it will converge, if we move in the right direction. Now, sometimes it doesn't look that way, right? This is a hard time to say that, because it doesn't look that way right now. But little by little, if we can look through history, it seems that it's happening. But even like as the population grows of Earth, we have only the information from there. The problems become bigger, but the solutions become bigger too, and we do we do
Yeah,
move along.
yeah.
Does that make more sense though?
I think so. Working at it at the heart level. Yeah, that helps.
Okay, good.
And I just one more quick question. So
Sure.
eventually our sun's going to die and theoretically, Earth will become cold and there won't be humans anymore.
That's right.
And the universe will continue on and
That's right.
Christ will continue.
Uh-huh.
And uh, I, I don't know. I, I'm wondering what Teilhard sometimes it feels very human focused as he says. And so what happens when we're gone? I guess is my question. I'm sorry if I'm being difficult.
Um, yeah, and I mean we're going to be gone, I keep thinking it's coming close. As I get older and
Closer,
older.
closer, maybe. Yeah, we might have to not don't have to wait till our sun burns out, but
Yeah, right. But it's hard to, I mean, like the other thing is the cosmic crisis isn't it just about Earth, right?
right,
It's the whole cosmos, and we don't know if there are sentient beings somewhere else, I mean, we keep
right.
looking, wondering, and we don't know if we'll be able to get to the moon and live there. I don't know that I want to do it, but um, so there's a lot of unknown there. Um, but like what happens when I die, that's another mystery, right?
Right.
And
Right.
and yet Yeah, and yet we're
Yeah,
becoming,
we can trust. I mean,
yeah,
we have
yeah,
faith and trust in what's going to happen. I'm just
that's right. It
anyway.
seems,
I'll
yeah,
keep
it seems
swimming.
that
It's
all the
okay. I
work we've
appreciate it.
done, and the spiritual part of ourselves isn't ready to die. It's really more the body, that wears out. And so what happens then? Yeah, I don't know. So you're asking big questions.
Well,
And
thank you very much.
they're
I
worth thinking
appreciate your
about.
answers.
Thanks a lot. Okay, Susan. You're there.
Yeah, there we go.
Good.
Well, something you just said when you were answering the other question really solidified something. When you just said right now, that it's the hearts connecting, that our hearts are turning loving, and so we are converging through our heart, through our love. But I was thinking, I've always had a hard time thinking about the point, the omega point, or the idea of merging into Christ. And I like that image that you have of all the humans, the faces of all these people. But really, what Teilhard is talking about, it seems to me, is the whole universe. And so I've always thought about it since I was started to read Teilhard more as heaven on earth. So that the love that we're feeling, I mean, if you look at the progress that mankind has made, even in our current situation, it's really quite astounding how much more united we are as a people than when I was born, 84 years ago. I mean, think about just the immediacy of every piece of the world, and we can empathize with people who are starving in the middle of everywhere in the world, and empathize with it. And so our hearts are converging together on these things, those of us who are in the loving mode. So I keep, and I mean this is kind of down to earth, but the day after the election, I thought, wow, we really do care. And so everybody coming out to vote was a real sign to me that people do care, that people do love the idea of democracy and helping other people and foreign aid and all this stuff and repudiating the negative that's been happening. So, I mean, I just see signs of us moving toward that, just even in my lifetime, but certainly if you look at ancient history and the war, I mean, we're still doing warfare, which is ridiculous. But anyway, so that was my comment.
Good,
It's
yeah.
just
Yeah, I think that's true. That it's hard to see and hard to believe sometimes, but there is some progress overall, not like maybe last week or the last couple months or whatever, but if you look at a longer timeline. So Jean, what would you like to tell us this time? And you're still muted. Yes.
Sorry.
There you go.
Yeah, what I connected with here was Brian Swim's Powers of the Universe, that the power of radiance was so connected to Teilhard's vision here, because it is the heart energy, and the radiance, that it's a physical thing. Our heart is in our body, but it's also the organ that is spiritual because of the love, and
That's right. Yeah.
and he talks about the love relationship between the sun and the earth, because this is where we get all our energy. That's how we live. And it's true, the sun will burn out. Who knows what's happening, because we're thinking linearly. And it's something, it's a mystery. But that radiance, I mean, we are radiance. We have that power of the universe. They live within us. And so I think Teilhard in saying that, and I can see it happening, that this is happening now. People's hearts are, even though, we talk about the dark side and it's very dark, it's causing, that very thing is causing our hearts to come more alive together, just as the last person was talking about all these things. So I just saw that connection, of the power of the universe of radiance and Teilhard's vision also.
Wonderful. Thank you. Yes. Yeah, and I think that's the point of his image there, is that radiance is available for us, but the more conscious we are of it, the better, so to be, in the old days, there was that practice of remembering the presence of God. Well, wow, and then the sun for me always is a way of, of reminding me. It's an image of the radiance that's there, at the center of the Christosphere, not just the center of the solar system. Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Jean. That was beautiful. Anybody else?
Margaret. Margaret, you're on mute.
I was thinking about Christ personalizing the universe. And what does that mean? And what came to mind was Thomas Berry's principle of the universe is a communion of subjects, not a collection of objects. And how that fits in with Christ personalizing the universe.
That's good. I hadn't thought about that, that connection. But I think that's a good way of thinking of it, right? If we think of things as objects, then of course the universe isn't personalized. But if everything we pick up is a subject rather than an object, then all is subject and all is, it's a person. Yeah, it's beautiful. Yeah. Anybody else? Well, it's been
That's it.
good being. I'm sorry, is somebody say something? No.
I just said that nobody else has their hand up.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
So it's been good being with you again. And we're going to end with a prayer. And I'll put that up. I have to get back to my screen, so hopefully it will come up easily. To jump back down here. Okay, let us pray. In the spirit of everything we just heard, glorious Christ, you are the divine influence secretly diffused and active in the depths of matter, and the dazzling center where all the innumerable fibers of the multiple meet. Power as implacable as the world and as warm as life. You whose forehead is of the whiteness of snow, whose eyes are of fire, and whose feet are brighter than molten gold. You whose hands imprison the stars, you who are the first, the last, and the living, and the dead, and the risen again. You who gather into your exuberant unity every beauty, every affinity, every energy, every mode of existence. It is you to whom my being cried out with the desire as vast as the universe. In truth, you are my Lord and my God. And so I thank you for being with us, tonight, and hope that you will continue to reflect on some of this and allow it to, develop your spiritual life and your vision and your thirst for union in our world today. So Godspeed.
Thank you, Kathy.
Kathy, before we have the closing song, I just want, on behalf of everyone, and we move forward together, I'd like to thank you for what you've done here. I think Christmas is going to be different, not only for those of us who listen to you these nights, but because of the energy that you sent out into the universe, which is ultimately the energy of Christ.
Yeah.
So I want to thank you. Thank you very much. We're very grateful.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Welcome.
So
And
great
now-
to see everybody.
So I'm going to stop the recording now, if that's
Okay.
okay with you, Kathy. And
That's
while
fine.
we're listening to the closing song, we ask that you just listen in a contemplative stance and silence, and not send up reactions, that come up the screen and that kind of thing. But let's just stay centered and listen to the words. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, here we go. Ready?